So I wanted to start off the 2025 Easter and Spring Live with kind of a recap, a rewind of all the stuff that is available for you guys to watch. And I wrote myself some great notes so I can direct you hopefully in the right place. Following the live, I'll also put the links in the description box of this video. So if you come back to this video or if you're going to rewatch it, then you'll see the links in the description box. But we'll start off with stuff that I've shared in the past. And we're going to talk about the 2022 Easter Live for this one. And there's all sorts of different ideas, and that's the thing that I think is most important to remember when it comes to creative play, that out of sight is out of mind. I believe that, and that's why I never apologize for repetition, because I am that way. Like, even going through this stuff to set up for live, I'm like, oh, I remember that. Oh, I remember these. It was so fun. And there was just a lot of crazy stuff. Now, some of this stuff I'm going to talk about each year. I just put stuff on trays. Not all of this is 22. Some of it was actually from last year, so I'll just kind of get through it. We'll talk about these guys. These are just fun. These are bottle brush tree carrots. This is using Ideology Woodlands. I used to do them in the past with some raffia, and this just using some faux green. But these are great. You can use for all different sizes. So maybe if there were trees that you didn't use for Christmas or certain sizes that you don't know what to do with, this is a great opportunity to do it. So the demo for that was from 2022. And also these are just wooden eggs. You can do this with wooden eggs, styrofoam eggs, paper mache eggs. It doesn't really matter what the core is, but this was just a great demo on how to create foiled eggs. These foils, and I'm going to talk about some mini ones for the tiny eggs, but these are essentially just using candy foils that you can pick up at the craft store or online, using a little alcohol ink to tint them and wrap them. But that just makes a great decor piece, especially if you want some larger ones and you're not going to have chocolate sitting out, because the chocolate ones for me, well, they don't sit out long because I eat them, but they're never this big. But anyway, that was a fun idea. Then as we get into some other ones, I'm going to fast forward to actually, let me just look up here. Where do I want to go? I think I'm going to just jump to 2024, because that's really where these card kind of things were updated, which was last year. Last year, played around this amazing, talented maker, Rika, on Instagram. She did some really great stuff that inspired me to add bunny ears to Photomatic, and these were a fun tag. So if you want to watch the demo for this, you can watch the 2024 Easter Live. But these are fun, just using photos. So you can do Photomatic, you can do Photo Booth. These are using some distress pencils. I talked about this great background, using some, you can, freehand and just cut these out, or this was actually a die. These, you can use the hippity hop bunnies. You can do any bunny die cuts and just cut off the ears and put those on, and then some Snarky, because these are the Ideology Snarky. They're hilarious. I'm not childish, you're just a big duty head. That's just fun for Easter. So I think, adding a little bit of snark. Paula did a great Snarky make recently too. If you don't have the Ideology Snarky, I got to tell you, that is one of those things. I'm going to say, I will do an Instagram Live where I just talk and read all the Snarky out loud, because I think that would be fun. Anyway, so these tags are on there. That was great. Another thing, and I did this, I think, over a couple of years, but I think last year is when we did the glitter. This is using a stamp set. I'm just going to kind of move this off to the side just to talk about. It's so cool when I look back at stuff that I do, and that's the other thing to know about a maker, which is great, is that sometimes an idea, even if you don't get around to it that year, you can kind of come back and realize that you can even revamp the idea, because from when the idea initially started to today, there could be products that actually support it in a different way. Case in point, this particular one, this is using the bottle brush trees. So it's the same concept as using the woodland trees, but actually taking the bottle brush tree stamps from Stampers Anonymous, stamp it upside down, and then you have carrot cards. And last year I shared, how to use distress ink, sticky embossing powder, rock candy to make these sparkly. But there's also dies for these now. So one of the things that we didn't do, because these were all done on the card, is I had the ability to die cut it. So what's nice about that is, I didn't have the dies when I first did it. So how fun is that I can actually dimensionalize this now? The die cuts out the whole stamped image, but you would just snip this off, use a little tiny attacher, staple the raffia, and then I can dimensionalize it. So that's kind of a 2.0 to this one, which I like. Well, I guess it'd be a 3.0 because that was the 2.0 version. But what's really nice about working with stuff is that as you collect it, especially if you got these just to use for Christmas, remember to circle back and go, oh gosh, yeah, I need some quick card ideas. I'll get out that stamp set. I remember buying that die, or not. It doesn't matter. that you can create cards like this. So that would be last year's video. That's a fun one. And then this guy, like really, in my opinion, the star of Easter last year. This is a lot of fun. I'm going to move this off to the side. And that, of course, would be Mr. Rabbit. Last year, I talked in detail about this card. I didn't demo this card. It was just a card that I had fun doing. But I remember we were talking about making that monocle out of the tag ring, doing this intertwine folder. I love that tattered background, using a little bit of resist spray, but just doing coloring and using all of the stamps, because this is it's just a great stamp set. It has so much detail on it. He's just a great character. It's got the background pieces, even some text. So if you're looking for an Easter stamp, or maybe you got it and you just didn't use it yet, well, put it to use, because it is a lot of fun. And this one was just one of those. I mean, technically it probably shouldn't be a card. It's very heavy, but I would probably put this in a vignette tray or put it on an etc. panel now and just have it as Easter art, because there's a lot of fun, crazy sewing, just using some ideology, that little ribbon, curious things. I really had a blast making this. But what I did demo is just kind of the general tag on how to do it. So if you wanted to go back and watch that demo of stamping and doing the distressed watercolor pencils to give them some color and grunging. So we did this tag in last year's video. So if you want to go back for a little rewatch, you can check that out and see how that's done. But something I didn't have, again, at the time, was a coordinating die. And I know that now because I label my stamps if I have a coordinating die. This is how I put a little sticker there if I put it in one of my binders. But these are coordinating dies from Simon Says Stamp, and they did a die for Mr. Rabbit. So what's great about this die, I love it. I just assembled the black and white version just so you can see it. If you have the stamp set, maybe you want to upgrade and get the die, because I love the thought process behind this. You know, typically you just get a die that has the outline shape, but I love that this die actually has these 3 bonus pieces, because what they do is, see how they cut the sides of his jacket and the bow tie. So I just dimensionalized that with a little bit of tape. I didn't color this one because I just wanted to give you the visual, but I do like that. I love the idea of really taking this, and yeah, really, really a lot of fun. So pretty cool. I think, you know, in seeing that to me, having all of those pieces, he's good. Yeah, especially that. So I'll be making something with that this year. But again, just looking back and kind of remembering some of the things that we had, and maybe there's new things that you can use or not. It doesn't really matter. So there you go. I know he is very distinguished. I agree. I love that. The dies are through Simon only. Yes, Simon Says does the dies. They're the only ones that wanted to do them, and I think that's great of them to do it. So that's where you'd get the coordinating dies. And I just took this image off of my website, the index, and printed it because it just made it easy. And I have, like I said, little binders, and I put a little sticker there so I remember, because my stamps are not stored with my dies, although I know some people put them together. But to me, it's a great way that I go, oh yeah, I have that over there. Great. They do. I just saw a comment about the whiskers cutting out nice. They do. All that little detail. Great. Okay. Tray 1 done. I'm going to hand some stuff off to Mario because I have really just stacked on some ideas. Thank you, Mario.
You're welcome.
Just bringing it in little by little. Okay, let's review this one. It's like, let's review. We're going to talk about the Salvaged rabbits from Ideology. Now, last year in the live, I did mention that these were retired, and they were retired last year. This year, they are officially sold out from Advantis, so any retailers that have them, that is the remaining stock. They're not coming back. They're not coming back as a vault or retired. They're gone for good. But like I said, retailers I know have been stocking up since I announced it last year. So if you're thinking about getting some Salvaged rabbits, this would be your year. And keep in mind that they're not coming back. So if you like to make for Easter every year, you might want to get more than just one pack. Right, Paula? There you go. Little inside joke here. But just a review of some things that you can do with the rabbits that I've done in different demos. I would suggest that if you're really looking for the majority of the techniques here, to watch the 2023 Salvaged Rabbits and Tiny Eggs live. There was a live specific to the rabbits and the eggs that I'm going to show next when they came out versus mixed in with an Easter die. I think it's just a little bit more in depth. But you can see, like, using foundry wax. So if you like the idea of just kind of this foiled rabbit, foundry wax and crayon, I demo that, how to do it. It's really It's a great effect, really simple. Or using distress paint to create kind of a faux wood effect. This is just using ground espresso, kind of dry brushing it on and wiping some of it off before it dries, but it just gives a cool wood effect. We talked about just some silly ideas. Mario and I, we shaved one of these green little rabbits and made a topiary, and then Tammy B said, oh, you can buy this green fuzz in the toy train section. But that was fun, just to make a little fuzzy green topiary.
It sure was a lot of fun shaving it, though.
It was a great idea when we did it. We're like, ooh, look at us. And Tammy's like, you can just buy the bag of fluff. It's like, oh, that was cool. Then this was another one that was inspired by Tammy B. I love the idea of kind of this garden statues crypt from from the Haunted Mansion. That's what it reminds me of. But this is using a little urn from Halloween, using the Salvaged rabbit. Distress paint, pumice stone is a great foundation just to create kind of a stone look. And then again, that's a Halloween release from Ranger. Grit paste crypt. It has like these little kind of grungy little speckly flecks in there. And he's glued on. There's a little styrofoam ball into there, some crypt paste, let it dry, and then just take some different colors of distress crayon and kind of grunge it up. But see, this could be just a great garden spring make. You can put him in there in the garden with toadstools or flowers or a trellis or any of that. So, you know, it doesn't always have to be Easter. And that was the whole importance of this live, to remind you that you can still stock up on stuff that you would maybe deem for Easter, but they could be used for spring makes. But as we really talk about Easter, one of my favorite things was the chocolate rabbit. Now, in 2023, I just assumed that just painting it brown would make it a chocolate rabbit. However, last year, I kind of upped my game and talked about using distress embossing glaze to create faux chocolate. And faux chocolate is really just using a foundation color of distress and then using one of the colors of glaze. So these are all different chocolates, and then we go over it with steel wool to take down the shine. So you can see out here where it's still shiny, there's no steel wool. Anyway, I demo all of this, but this is how we made a faux chocolate rabbit. So he's got like that little bit of like waxy shine almost. So I demoed this last year. A lot of fun to make a chocolate bunny, and you'll see where we use this chocolate bunny. And then this year, I saw something on, I think it was on Instagram. Of course it was on Instagram. But it was just, I think it was even maybe something from C's, where they had a chocolate and they started peeling off the foil. And I thought, how hilarious is that? Just to take a piece of the candy foil, that's all I did, that same let me just grab it over here, that same candy foil that we use on the eggs. And because it's much thinner than kitchen foil. So if you're like, can I just use kitchen foil? You can try that, but it's way thicker. So these foil wraps, or you can recycle. Maybe you have some Easter chocolates, but all I did was just wrap it around a chocolate rabbit and just left some of the edges tattered. Hilarious. That would be me. Now you'd need to do is like, chop off one of the ears, because that's pretty much the first thing we'd bite off. But just a lot of fun to do. So that's another way that maybe you've made some chocolate rabbits. You're like, I haven't done anything with it. Well, now you can add that and maybe put it in something. And we'll talk about different things that we can put these elements in. I think it'd be a lot of fun. So if you're into salvage rabbits and you're into the chocolate stuff, again, I wanted to just kind of mention that these are now sold out from Advantis, but retailers have it. But stock up while you can, because, I think these vault things, I'm going to hand this off to Mario. I think these vault things, as I've talked about them, there you go. Let me give you that. I'm going to put that. Thanks.
Sure.
The vault things, as I've talked about, it's fun when stuff comes back from the vault, but it's just not a norm. And I think I've done so many vaults lately that people just assume like, oh, there's going to be another vault next week, but there's not. Okay. So tiny eggs, again, another part of that release when we did the rabbits. These have also been retired, but you can still get stock. And I want to stress that many retailers have been stocking up. So it is important that if you're looking for stuff, and this has now been 2 lives where I've talked about it, get it while you can. What I love about these eggs is that you can do so many different things to these. You can leave them as is. So maybe you're doing, a farm or a barn kind of make and you're looking for an egg. They're perfect because they're just resin. But you can also do other things. And I'm going to demo a little bit once I get through all these trays. We'll talk about it. But these, I love the idea of just using alcohol ink to color these. When I initially did this in 2023 when they came out, I talked about a bag. I have a new way of doing these. See how much more colorful they are and how coated they're not as splotchy, because that's one thing I didn't like about the plastic bag way. So I'm going to do little tiny egg 2.0 today. But look at those. Don't they look like candy? Amazing. That's just alcohol ink on the eggs. No shine, and it just does it from the egg. I love them. And then kind of taking a spin off the big foiled eggs that I initially did. Yes, you can foil wrap these tiny eggs. And I talked about doing these foiled eggs again in that 2023 video, so you can learn how to do it. But it's just taking candy foil, alcohol ink, cutting into small pieces. And instead of doing like the big egg, you just do the small egg with a little collage medium. But how cute are those? So realistic, so fun. Probably one of my favorites, which is surprising because it's so pastel and pretty. But I love these sugared eggs. It is so simple. Probably the easiest egg, even easier than alcohol ink. That's so simple because you make these sparkly little sugar eggs. And the sugar eggs, and again, I cover that in the demo video, but it's just starting out with rock candy glitter. So maybe you scored on one of these big rock candies, but you're taking the rock candy glitter. Let me just move this out to the side. I've already demoed it, so I'm not going to go into a deep dive detail. But any of your tinted ones, so I've talked about how you can tint distressed rock candy in all the colors. That's what I've done. You just take your whatever color you want. I just like to do the lightest one because that just gives it the most sugary look. But you could do them a brighter color. So I went through and chose all of the different pastel glitters that I've done. So just really depends on the colors you want. And all you do is take glossy accents. You put a little glossy, like a puddle of it, put it on your fingers, roll it around the egg, and throw the egg in the glitter. So you don't have to ink it first. You don't have to do anything to the egg other than cover it with glossy accents because the tint of the glitter is what gives the eggs the color. And I think it's way more subtle because you might be like, well, hold on. Can I just alcohol ink them a color and then coat them in clear glitter? Yes, you can, but they don't look as colorful for whatever reason because the clear glitter kind of diffuses that underneath color. Not saying you can't do it. You definitely can try. But to get this like really pastel look that I wanted for Easter, that was really the best way, which was just glossy accents and tinted glitter. And I just throw it right in the jar and shake it up. That's why you kind of see a little stick on the inside because sometimes a glossy accent sticks, but it doesn't hurt the glitter. Anyway, that's one of my favorites. I just like that effect because you can do that on anything. For example, if you wanted a sugared Salvaged rabbit, you do the same thing. Glossy accents on the outside of the rabbit. You'd need a bigger container, coat it in glitter, and now you have a sugared rabbit. So keep in mind when it comes to creating that. I'm seeing some sort of discount. Is there a discount going on?
On sale. Whoop, whoop.
I'm on sale?
You're on sale, 20% off.
Oh, that's cool. That's really cool. Oh, I just saw that post. Well, that's awesome. Thanks, Simon Says. That's really nice. I was just looking like, thanks for the code, and I'm like, what code am I missing?
You're cheap.
That's awesome. 20% off. Thanks. That's great. There you go. 20% off. Now there's no reason not to stock up. Okay. So we talked about sugar eggs. Then the other egg is really just creating speckled eggs. And I'll hold these close just so you can really see the detail. These are just tiny little speckled eggs. These are done with your favorite colors of paint. And again, I demoed this in the 2023 Rabbits and Eggs, but it's just distressed paint on your fingers. You roll it around. You drop it on a piece of wax paper or palette paper for them to dry. Then that's it. You don't need a brush or anything. You just roll it in your fingers. Different colors. And then I love scorched timber for a splatter. You can use black if you want, but scorched timber is kind of that dark brown, almost black. And I just use a distress splatter brush and just splatter the egg. So you really get those little speckly bits. But all different colors. I think the first year I did them, I just did them in speckled egg blue. But just playing around, it was fun just kind of working with this. And I know that Paula is going to be posting a make too using some of the eggs. She in fact posted on Instagram about eggs. I'm like, you're not going to believe, like we both did colored eggs because they're fun. Just you can use whatever colors you want for that. So those are just some ideas using the tiny eggs because you can do a lot of different things with eggs. Okay. And I think seeing that inspiration sometimes is what's going to remind you of like, oh yeah, I can do that. That's good. All right, let's talk about some stuff. Now we're going to get into how we put all of these together. And this is where getting ready this year sparked a whole different, I don't know, kind of way for me to think about Easter. I had such a good time. Okay, last year when I was talking about all of the rabbits and cards and all that stuff, we were talking about different ways to use the rabbits because when the rabbits first came out, it was using Ideology barrels. These are resin barrels from the Ideology line. You could put a lot of different things in it, but they do make a cute little bucket for the rabbit and eggs. But then I was shopping and I found these baskets, these little wicker baskets. You can find these, some craft stores you can try to see if you can still find them, but you can also find them online, check them out. But you want to make sure, like before you go in crazy, it is important that it's just a natural wicker basket because we want to be able to color it. And I demoed this last year while I talked about it, just spraying it with distress spray stains and spraying a color, and we made these cute Easter baskets where, you know, you can just, you put it in the basket, there's the chocolate rabbit right in there, there's different kind of eggs from alcohol ink to foiled. And then if you have any cellophane, you can just take cellophane, old school. This is just a piece of tulle. You can use ribbon and just make a cello basket. Now, the grass that I used, and this was a whole funny thing, this is vintage wax grass. I buy this on eBay, so you can find it. It just comes in a pile because today's Easter grass is not the Easter grass I remember growing up with, what you find in the store. It's so thick and it's made out of weird materials, but this is a really fine grass. Some people were using wax paper and inking it and making their own, but this is really just thin wax paper grass. So if you like vintage, I encourage you to go on eBay or Etsy and type vintage Easter grass and you'll see it. Okay, so we're making the baskets. Here's what we're going to do this year, because this is going to be where the demo starts. While these were fun and cute, this was still not the Easter basket of my childhood. The one of my childhood was multicolored, crazy, often colors that you wouldn't even think go together. And I was like, I wonder if I can replicate the look of Easter baskets of my childhood. And that's what these are. These are totally what I remember about getting those multicolored baskets. They were always crazy. They had the different stripes and colors. And I'm like, you know what? I want to do that. And so I set out to kind of replicate that. And I'm going to demo that because I did go through a lot of trial and error. I tried using paint, I tried using stain, and it just wasn't working because when you touch a brush to this natural wicker, it was like, it was game on and it was terrible. All right, so that's where we're going to start. We're going to start playing around with that. So I'm going to move these baskets off to the side. I'll take some of the stuff that I need. I'll take these baskets. I'll just move this tray out because I need to bring up my glass mat. I did see someone ask where I got those trays. These are vintage. Those were vintage medical trays, and I got those from my friend Mr. Cup, who sells on Instagram. Yeah, they're cool. You saw that question, Mari? Is that what you said? Yeah, they're cool. They're vintage. Vintage is good. All right, let me put this. I always like to get this kind of squared up in there. Oh, it looks good enough. Okay, I got to move some stuff out of the way. Give myself some space. All right. So I love that people, yeah, see when you see that, I saw some nice, very nice comments. Thanks. I did. You're like, you nailed it. Well, I tried. It's one of those things that, you know, you have that memory and it's, you know, people talk about that core memory. It was definitely a core memory for me. Let me just kind of straighten that out a little bit. All right, best I can. It's a little wonky, but listen, you got to embrace the wonkiness. There we go. Okay, there we go. Tried to zoom in. Did we do okay? All right, here we go. It's good enough. That's all I can do. So for these, it's just really about adding some colors. If you're not into fussy things, you may not like this, but I'm not really a fussy guy, and I had no problem doing it because you can actually get away with quite a bit on these. All right. So what I use to color these, obviously the base is going to be some spray stain, but we'll get to that. But to add all of this fun, colorful detail, I used alcohol inks. Now, this is going to give me the opportunity to actually talk about these. It's not for the infomercial, but I was like, why not? This actually works well. The reason I use alcohol ink for this is because alcohol ink is a translucent dye. And to me, I wanted to do something translucent because all of those old baskets, it was always dyed. When I tried using distress paint, it adds color, but it doesn't add that translucent factor of the wicker. It just looks like it's painted. So I didn't like how paint looked. When I tried using re-inkers or stain, they wicked so quickly that it was very hard to just stay on a little piece without it spreading everywhere. So alcohol ink was kind of my go-to because I knew it was going to be translucent and it dried really quick. So the alcohol inks, if you saw a post that I did, we launched these kits this week with Ranger of alcohol ink. And while these are not new colors, the reason we did this is because there's a lot of people out there that are getting into this industry that are new. And we get asked all the time, like, how do I start? What colors do I start with? And so we did 4 different packs. I helped kind of come up with the colors that I would think would be a great starter kit if you only wanted to get one pack. And the benefit of this, it's a great value, because if you were to buy all of these inks separate, they would run you about $36, $37 for those 8 bottles. But in this pack, it sells for $29.99. So it's a value. I mean, I would say that you save like probably 1 or 2, like 1.5 bottles of ink. But they're all different color themes. So there's bright, and there's retro, and there's classic and urban. So if you're new to alcohol inks, that's really why we did this. The colors are not new. Again, it was just something that gave you the opportunity to kind of test drive a product. We don't typically do that, because people have asked before, could you give us like a starter set? But this was something that it's such a great medium that it was kind of the perfect way to do it, and value. And I just saw 20% off. There you go. Yeah, there you go. There you go. So alcohol inks, I swatch mine. I just swatched them on Yupo because I wanted to see the colors. And that's really where I went in and started picking out the colors that I wanted to use for the basket, right? So if you're looking at this, you're like, okay, that's Gumball, that's Fiesta. Which kind of pink do I want? So it was helpful to go through and pick that. If you don't have swatches, I do encourage you that before you go and take all the colors that you want, just drip some onto even a piece of paper just to see what the color looks like when it's dry, because you can't always go by the label on a translucent ink. Okay, I'm gonna bring in these little bottles of ink. I've got some alcohol ink. Now, when you're working with alcohol inks, work in a well-ventilated area, that's just the norm. You can work on palette paper. I find that working directly on glass is the easiest for me, but you do whatever's gonna work. But you're just going to start out by picking out some colors that you want to work with. So let's say we want to replicate, something teal and pink. We can get all sorts of crazy. The brushes. Now, I'm not a professional artist. I don't know the technicalities of it, but I found this really, really tiny brush. And this says 3/0. I don't know what that means, but it's the tiniest little brush ever. This is the alcohol ink brush. That's small, so you can see how tiny it is. That's the brush I use, and I like this brush because this is what I use to paint like the Salvaged figures at Christmas, and it's perfect for this because it is very, very tiny. But you guys use whatever's going to work for you. Okay, let me get that, take that. Okay, I'm just going to play around. Now, you don't need a lot. Okay? You just need a little bit to go. I'm going to move this out of the way. I've got stuff everywhere, so just want to kind of keep track of it. And all I'm going to do is I'm just going to put some ink down on the glass. You could do one color at a time. You don't have to get crazy because alcohol ink dries really quick. So if you put a palette down, it's going to dry. And you can kind of work this way from the glass. That's honestly how I did my first one. I did this and I was like, okay. But I found that even on glass, I was fighting with the ink drying too quick and not giving me enough color. So here's what I do instead. Okay, that's why I only did a small amount because I'm not using it. Okay, what I'm using instead, and this is totally optional, so don't think that you have to do this, because you don't, is if you've made a palette, which these are empty palettes that I do with Ranger that I have ones for distressed re-inkers, I've got them for crayons, I've got all that, but I have one for alcohol ink. And when you drip the alcohol ink in this palette, the alcohol dries, and then you can go in with just isopropyl alcohol or blending solution, and you can like rehydrate or reconstitute it. And it just makes for a nice palette because everything's already dry. I don't technically work from that as far as like putting in some just rubbing alcohol. I actually take whatever color I want and I'll drip it into that well that I want to use. Just a couple of drips. And just that drip or so of ink is enough to like reconstitute all the color that's in there, kind of like a watercolor palette. When you add water to it, it makes paint. But it allows me to kind of keep it in the well, and then I'm not really wasting it, meaning when it dries, it just stays in there and I can use it again. So if you have one of these, this is one of the things that I would suggest doing. I saw a lot of questions, which colors did I use for the basket? I just talked about colors. Just go through and pick which ones you like. If you like the brightness, go for it. I think it was like Gumball and Purple Twilight, turquoise, sunshine, yellow, Valencia on the orange, amethyst also is a great purple. I mean, there's many, many options. Botanical was a great green. So it really, you can just use what you have. It's fun. And don't worry about even matching it in the well, because like this is pink. I don't know how many different pink inks are actually in here now, and it doesn't matter because I just dip the brush in there I'll do my best to paint like through my phone. And you just touch it right in the middle and see how it stays put. It's pretty wild. And you just paint across, and then you skip one and you paint across. Now, what I've learned, I'm not a basket weaver, shocker, but as you go around, you're going to think you're staying in the lines, but there's more on one side and less on the other. See around the curve how this starts to go up? It's just how a basket's made. So if you keep going all the way around, you actually won't line up anything. So just pick a side that you want to start on and be happy with that. If you paint a little bit outside the line, don't freak your freak. You're not going to see it, and we're going to add some stain to this at the end. So it's just a quick touch. See? You just go around, take the brush, touch. When you need more ink, you just touch it onto the palette. I'm trying to stay in camera and use my eyes. It's very challenging. Okay. So you get the idea. You would paint. And I would just want to do some different colors. So I'm going to pick this up. So easy. All right. So to clean my brush between colors, you're just going to use some isopropyl alcohol. And I have just a little dish. It's a little ceramic dish, but you can use whatever you want. But just put some isopropyl in there and just use that to clean your brush. Okay? Doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be something that's going to turn a color. And then I just wipe. See, I just wipe the brush off. Go back into the alcohol and wipe it off. So see how intense that was in the second one? There's not much there. That's clean enough. Okay, we can go for it. So our next color, I'm going to do like a bluish color. So I'll just take a bluish. This is turquoise. I'll put and it really only takes I'm putting in 1 drop of ink. 1 drop, because 1 drop is going to re-wet everything in there. That's why I prefer the palette versus anything else, because it just allows me to even use what's already there. And then just pick another row and just start painting. And again, when you're doing this, I know that at first you're just like, what am I doing? This is crazy. These take no time at all. I was rocking out these baskets. Like once you get your groove, you just go basket to basket, and you just start going. And you're going to paint all the way around. And if you want to do another row, my advice is don't do what I first did, which was I Google image. I'm like, oh, I need to find, an Easter basket so I can copy the color palette. And then I was like, are you kidding? The more random you are, that was really true childhood Easter. But if you need that, I'll photograph these and I'll have them on the blog so you can have reference, because I think the colors are a bit out there. Like this one, hilarious. Purple, pink, and like this blue-green. Super fun. Okay, so you get the idea as far as painting these. So see, I'm just painting the high one. I'm not doing any of the vertical pieces, just the horizontal bands. And you can color them, just do different patterns. See how this one, like I actually did the whole thing, a little skippity bit. This I did just the band, and then I did solid. So maybe I'll do that with this one, where I just did the center. I mean, there's no right or wrong. I just want you to have fun if you're going to try this out. Don't get all in your head about being perfect. Just going to clean the brush. Again, let me just get my cloth. Just wipe that off. Okay. So far, so good. It's good fun. I just absolutely love it. Okay, let me do, I'm going to do a little bit of yellow, and then I'll show you because I want them to be different than what I already have. So that's just a little, this one's sunshine yellow. Probably looks like there was dandelion in it because it's a little bit brighter. But see, there again, I can mix it and just pick up some color. So let's just go to the top. Now, yellow, of course, because it's translucent, it's not going to show up as much, but it definitely shows up because we're going to stain this whole basket. And again, I'll reiterate that typically I would paint all the way around, but for the sake of the demo and time, I'm just not. You'll get the idea this way, and that's all that matters. Because you can go back even after, I'm going to stain it. Even after you stain it, if you wanted to go back and change a color, you could. Just keep in mind that alcohol inks are translucent. So if you put a color over a color, you'll get something new. Meaning, if I decide that, oh, I can't put yellow over blue, it's just going to turn it green because they're translucent. But I can put a different color blue, or I can make it darker, do purple or something if you need to. But don't overthink it. Don't overthink the ink. Okay, so once you do the small stuff, one of the things that I love is just the bold color of that wrap and the handle. So that's when I go to a different brush. So I'm just going to go to that alcohol ink brush, just a small one. I don't even know if this has a number. It doesn't. It's just a small brush, something you're comfortable with. And I think for this one, let's go purple. Why not? Well, what haven't I done? Oh, do I have orange? Yeah, we're going to do orange on this. Let's do orange because I don't have one with an orange handle and I want one. All right, I'm going to put some, that looks like a brighter orange. Now I'm going to need a few drips of this one. So I put like 3 drops. I might need more because it's going to use more ink than the rest. And you just go for it. So we're just going to load up the brush. Oh yeah, I'll need way more ink. And then you just start painting. So this, I'm going to do the handle, but alcohol ink, it goes such a long way. So when I'm painting with this, if you have a color that's maybe too dark, so this one, see how I think it's a little dark for me, you can always thin it out with a little bit of ISO or blending solution, whichever one you have. But just start with a drop at a time, because if you make it too thin, then you're just going to be just soaking more ink in there. There we go. It's a bit more fluid. And don't overthink this, really. Just let the brush hit it. You get what you get. And it dries almost instantly. It does. But I'm going to load this up with ink because I wanted to do some more orange. The purple is fun. I had such a blast. I mean, really, even this pink and purple one, it cracked me up. It's hilarious. Okay. So picking it up with the brush. So on this one, I just start by going over the top of it. Just create that band first, meaning don't try to become one with the basket and figure out which the motion of the weave. You're just going to look at it and you're going to see something stand out and you're like, oh, I need to cover that up with ink. And that's all you do. Honestly, when I started out, I thought, what am I doing? You are so not that guy. You are not the fussy, tedious guy. But then this was just super easy. Okay, so once I do the band, I also, on this one, I just wanted that color to come down a little bit. So I'm just going to touch those cross pieces. I'm going to try to stay away from the vertical ones, but if you hit it, it's not the end of the world. It just isn't. It's not a problem. Okay, but I just wanted to have a little bit more color of that orange come down off the band, and then I'm going to even put some along the bottom. Now another thing to note, if your brush is too wet, see that little bit right there? If you have too much ink on your brush to start, it will flow even quicker. So that's why I also like the palette idea, because a little bit too much ink is just going to make like a bigger flooding mess on the bottom. But that's all right. If it happens, it happens. It's just Easter. And then just going to stain a little bit of that. I would stain the whole bottom. You guys will get the idea. Okay. Now, if you're painting and you want to work quick, you can use a heat tool, or if you have a fan, alcohol inks dry much faster with cool air than warm air. Warm air sometimes brings out the stickiness of the resin. So just a fan makes it super easy. And I like this one because it blows out the side. It's one that I guess you wear at summer, but it's nice. So there you go. Look at that color. Simple. So you would do the whole thing. Took no time at all. Once you're done, you have an optional step. I'm just going to clean my brush real quick so I don't forget. Okay, move this off to the side, get rid of this palette. So once you're done, you could leave it this color, but to me this color is still really light. I liked just a little bit more of a vintage vibe. It's not, maybe you'll notice it at the bottom. There you go. See the difference? How an undone basket is really kind of white, and this just gives it that vintage look. That's where spray stain comes in. So you may not want antique linen. You may decide, oh, you know, I want to just leave it as is. That's fine. But keep in mind that if you say, oh, I'm going to do pink, pink over everything will cover everything because these are all translucent. Antique linen doesn't really alter anything that much. Okay. So what I'm going to do, let me just get a splat box. Just going to do my splat box real quick. Now remember, this would be a fully painted basket, but we're not going to overthink things. Just going to take some spray stain, spray the inside, spray over everything that you inked. Even if you didn't ink, because we can finish that, even we can put it over the stain. It's not going to hurt it. Just a couple of sprays. There you go. And then take that paper towel and just blot this off as well, because I just want a light effect, so I don't need that much stain on there. And see how that just kind of, it blends everything. And even where you like kind of screwed things up, perfect. Yeah, it just, I don't know, it kind of eliminates all of the, I don't know, whatever could or couldn't have happened. Let me just clean this off of my hands. A little bit of water. Simple, simple. Okay. And let me go in and try that. There you go, just to see it. Again, not a big deal. Totally done. Except for that side. But that's okay. We got it. Then you can take a little bit of grass, a little bit of Easter grass. There we have it.
That stuff is expensive.
It is. It's expensive. It was the craziest thing when I first started buying it on eBay. All I saw was like a clump of it sitting on a scale. Like that's how sellers were selling it. I'm like, what? Yeah. But it's a little goes a long way. Like you might think like that little ball, when you open it up, it's endless amount of Easter grass. Anyway, how fun is that? Then you can add things. You can add the rabbits, you can add the eggs, and your glue. I just use hot glue for this. If you're gonna build, I would suggest to just start with a styrofoam ball, like glue a little styrofoam ball in the bottom of the basket, then add Easter grass. This way, because see, this is really, it's kind of bouncy, but if you have a styrofoam ball or anything, it could be a wood cube, it doesn't matter, but like build up the foundation with something, then cover it with the grass. This way, your rabbit can sit higher up. Otherwise, it falls, let me just grab one. It falls pretty low in the basket otherwise, see? So that's how you get it kind of to build up. Just put something under there that you're going to cover with the grass. And yeah, so I know I totally want to do like that foiled one in a basket. Fun. And if you wanted to color the foil, you could alcohol ink that as well. So, you know, sometimes you saw the foiled rabbits with the printing on it. Same thing. Now you have the technology. Take your little brush, dip it in your palette, and you can go in and actually color the foil with whatever colors you want to match the rabbit. It's pretty fun. So I absolutely love it. It's really, really great. Okay. That was fun. Just ideas of how to create the cutest little colorful vintage vibe Easter baskets. I absolutely love that. Okay. So far so good. Did I do all right, Mario?
Great.
Good. Yeah.
Even though you're not a basket weaver.
No, I'm not. It took, but I'm telling you, I will admit, there was two that just went right in the can. They were not savable. I didn't understand it, and as I was painting, I just kept following the line, and before you knew it, I did a whole little spiral. I'm like, when does this line end? You learn. Okay. Yeah, candy foils, you can get Hershey Kiss. You can actually buy candy and eat it, but it is just called candy wrap. So you can find those really at any craft store or online if you're looking in the candy section. That's where you find it, because it's much, I'll take a piece out. It's super thin, and that's what let's see. There we go. And it's even covered with like pieces of paper. So like this foil. It's not as thin as leafing, okay? You can hear it still has that foil, and it has the shine, and then it's a little bit dull on the side. So yeah. And a lot of times before I apply it to something, I just give it a little character, and then I apply it, because you can still smooth it out when it's on something. You know, if you were gonna wrap this, see, it's so moldable just with your finger because it's just that thin. So there you go. Okay, that was good fun. Gonna take this out. I'm just gonna create a little pile of stuff. So we're gonna talk about alcohol inking the eggs, those little tiny eggs. I'm just gonna keep this stuff here for now. Let's see, who knows what I'll do with it. Okay, these little tiny eggs. So the tiny eggs, quite fun because, well, they're tiny. And in the first demo, I talked about taking a little plastic bag and putting some in and kind of moving them around. And you can still totally do it that way. But I wanted to create some really saturated color. And the bag leaves little drip marks, which is not a bad thing if you wanted the eggs to look a little bit more marbleized. But I think that this is something that's really cool. So I see someone ask about the baskets. The baskets, craft store or check online for places that have them. But they're tiny. Let's see, what is the measure? What is it? Simon Says has them. This is like a 2-inch wide basket. So see, like it's like 2 by 1 on the bottom, but I'm gonna say like 2 by 2 overall. Really cute. Gosh, they're so fun. Okay, but perfect scale, right, for the rabbits. All right, so here's what I did. Just get yourself some tiny little cups. These, you can use any kind of mixing cups that you can find, but the smaller the better for this. But maybe you have portion cups or whatever. If you save a lot of little, I think these are some type of maybe resin cups or pharmacy cups. It doesn't really matter. All right, but I have cups for each color. You see that? Different colors of eggs. So the light pink, I think this is Cosmopolitan. The bright pink, you can use Gumball or Fiesta. This one, that Sunset Orange. This one, Sunshine Yellow. The purple, that's amethyst, the teal, that's turquoise, the green, that's citrus. So I don't know where my bright pink one is. I probably put it back. But yeah, you can do them however you want to do it. So here's what you're going to do for the eggs. I already have some eggs in a bag. Pretty simple. Okay. They do look like jelly beans, and they could be jelly beans. Maybe you're going to do a little, a little make where you wanted some jelly beans and you wanted to put it like in a little shaker dome or something. That would be a cute idea. So just take whatever eggs you want. I'm just going to take a few because I have plenty of colored ones already. I have bags of these because when I do it, it's like I like to do things in the bulk. Let's go in and do, what color should we do? We could do, I saw a lot of people talk about purple. We'll do purple, right? Why not? You're just going to take the eggs, put them in the cup. Get yourself some kind of lid. I just used a portion cup. It's not something that fits it, but it's something that can cover the top of it other than your hand, okay? So the smaller the better. And the reason I say the smaller the better is because the larger the area, the more the ink is going to obviously stick to the outside of that area. So this is just it's less ink. Okay, there we go. So what I'm going to do is just put in just a few drops. Maybe I'm going to say 2, if that. Put some type of lid. See, the lid's even upside down. It's just to protect my hands. And you're just going to kind of give it like a swirling motion and a shakety-shake motion. Okay? And all that's going to do is cover the eggs in color. Now, here's the trick. However these dry, like if I let them dry like this, the ink starts to flow down the side of the egg, and that's where it creates these weird spots. So this is also where the little fan comes in. And this is the part that if you want the eggs to look like this, it takes a little bit of patience. So if patience is not your thing, then probably not what you want to do. You can just sit here and just keep shaking them because there's ink. Can you see that wet ink down there as I shake them? We need to get that ink to dry. So if you have a fan and you have it on low, having a fan on them while you're shaking them will just speed up this process, but you don't have to. But if you're not using a fan, you just need to kind of keep shaking these eggs, like let it sit for a second so the ink can have a chance to set. And what you're kind of waiting for is that. See how the eggs stop shaking? That means the ink is starting to dry because alcohol ink contains a resin, and when it starts to get sticky, that means that resin is drying. So we're almost there. Okay? That's really how you tell. And if it starts to stick together, just kind of tap that just so it can come away from the sides because we don't want them to stick there. Okay. Once they're done, you can put this on palette paper, wax paper. It could even go on a paper towel because these eggs should be pretty much dry. So just flip them over, give it a little tap, and let's see. That's your egg. Totally dry, totally shiny, perfect. It's that easy, but see how colored they are? They're like really, really saturated. Now, if you don't like that they're colored that intense, try the Ziploc bag thing or try a lighter color of alcohol ink. Or if you just don't like the way it looks because it's too dark, you can always take a clean cup, put a little drop of isopropyl in there, do the whole shakety shake, and that will take some of that color away. It will lighten it. Or you can spritz rubbing alcohol on there, and that will give them a little bit of speckly look, but pretty simple, right? They do look like jelly beans, especially the purple ones. But then you can just add them in. And that's why I think it's important to, if you have different colors of alcohol ink, just try, even if you're doing one egg at a time, because it might surprise you what colors you like in the eggs. But to me, it's so much easier with a little cup and cooling it off than it was in the bag because it does ink them really, really well. And this technique would also play with like bubbles that we do in ideology, anything that you want to color a little bit more, I don't know, more evenly, I guess. That'd be the trick. So I just wanted to talk about that. I love those colors as well. It's just a lot of fun. And then the cups, well, I just save the cups year after year after year because why not? Stack them all up and put them away. And then this I just cleaned. So if I am doing different colors, I'll just make sure that I take a little bit of isopropyl and just clean off the lid. Just, do I have it on this side? Yeah, there we go. Whatever side it's on. Only because if you don't, and you have that purple ink on there and you do yellow, remember the inks react with each other. So even if you're using a yellow cup, if there's another color on there and that yellow touches it, the yellow and purple would make brown. So kind of keep that in mind when you're doing it. Okay. That was fun. I love using color. So let's keep talking about alcohol inks and color because Well, once you start, I'm telling you, if you like to just play, and that would be me, I like to play. It's about looking at things a little different. And once you start going down like this road about, say, alcohol ink, and you're like, oh my gosh, that was fun. I love doing that. I love doing that. What else can I do? Well, then you go to the craft store and you see things that maybe aren't you, but my gosh, they're fun. And I see them a lot. Oh, here's the pink one. There it is. I see these on Instagram all the time. And so, of course, when I saw disco eggs, I'm like, oh, heck yeah. I am so on that. I love this. You could find these at the craft store. You can find them online. Wouldn't surprise me if Simon says she has everything, because it's creative convenience, because not everybody in the world has a craft store right down the street or a dollar store or something. So I think that's really sweet of Heidi, that often, like when she sees stuff that she knows other people will want. I think that's really nice. So these are styrofoam eggs covered in these little mirrored tiles. And you can use them like that, disco eggs, but I think coloring them, ridiculously fun. And if you have a modern vibe, or you want to just kind of create a cool setting or mood, yeah, see, Jenna said she made a disco spider for Halloween. Disco is the thing, I got to say. Remember the disco balls we got for New Year's? I did those.
You buy so much disco everything.
And Mario's right. I do buy disco everything, and it's like the furthest from my style ever.
But you love them.
I am absolutely mesmerized by it. I think it was always because of like the kid at the school dance. Like I always watch that little mirror ball. I'm like, look at what it's doing. Like, look, like I remember going to Skate Town, USA as a kid. Remember the roller skating rink? And they, would always have that disco ball going, and, you'd play shoot the duck and all those crazy things with roller skates. Yeah, I absolutely loved it. So, yeah. Anyway, I do like disco stuff. So what I'm going to do is just show you how you can alcohol ink these, because even though we can use alcohol ink, it's different every time. You can't really put this in a big bowl and shake it around. Okay, that's what it is. Roller disco, you guys know it. All right, so we're going to do this bright pink. I think that would show up. So take some type of skewer or stick, because if you try to hold on to this, you're going to end up leaving a mark, okay, especially if you're going to do this. So anything styrofoam, you can usually just jab that in. So now we've got like an egg on a stick. And then when we go to add the ink, you have, again, options. Could you use a paintbrush? Yes. Could you use a cosmetic sponge? Yes. Could you use felt? Yes. You could use whatever's going to work for you. I just find that I'll use a blending tool, but I have these left over. It's just old school flat foam. Ranger still sells the flat blending foam, and I love the flat foam if I'm applying ink or paint to something, alcohol ink or paint. If I'm doing blending, I prefer the domed foams now. But this one's nice because, as you can see, it's not very thick. The thing to be careful about when you're using sponges like a cosmetic sponge is they're designed to absorb. So when you're squeezing ink into that makeup sponge, you're wasting a lot more ink because it's soaking it up. So that's really why I prefer these. And then they just dry and use them over and over again. So once you have them, keep them in a Ziploc bag like with those little portion cups. I have alcohol ink tools that I just use again and again. All right, so all you're going to do is take your favorite alcohol ink. Now, what you can do is mix them up. If you don't want them just to be a solid color, you can throw caution to the wind, and you can do pink and purple and blue all on there, and you can have a ball, have a good time. But all I need to do is just yeah, literally, just squeeze some ink on there, and then you're just going to start dabbing this ink. You can swipe it if you want a lighter color, or you can dab it, and you work. That's it. It's so simple. You can see how quick it covers. Turn this over, do the other side, spin the tool because it's got ink on different parts of that, and that's it. Done. Whoop, whoop. Cover that up. There it is. So simple. And drying, again, it takes seconds. Now, if you're going to do a whole series of them, have a few sticks. So this can dry for at least, you want it to dry, I'm going to say, a few seconds, or if you have your little trusty fan, this one's got 3 speeds, so you can just speed it up. But you don't have to use a fan or anything to dry it. It'll air dry. It just obviously speeds it up, okay? If you have alcohol ink on this and you go to touch it, you're going to get ink on your finger, okay? So what you can do is, can you reuse a rectangle felt pad? Yeah, the same way you can reuse this, you can reuse the felt. The thing about felt, though, this is little bits of glass or sharp plastic, I'm not sure. So if you do that, this is going to look like a Chia Pet because it's going to have so many fuzzies from that felt that catch all these cut corners. That's why I chose a foam. There's always a reason. But if you do felt, it's just all those little fibers are gonna stick everywhere. So that's just the only thing you gotta be careful of. All right, so I just take a piece of, just a pair of pliers, and I just pull off my foam that way. Because the ink is still wet on there, and then I throw it in the little bucket, put another one on. Otherwise, you're gonna get some ink on your fingers if you care. If you don't care, it doesn't matter. If you get ink on your fingers or on the surface, the easiest way to clean alcohol ink off of your hands is hand sanitizer, because hand sanitizer is solvent. So you can just rub that in and that'll just clean off the ink, see? So hand sanitizer, it's always good to have a little bit of that handy, but that's what will take ink off of your hands and off of your glass mat or whatever. There you go. See how easy that was? Super fun. And you can just imagine when you start playing with colors, aren't they just magical? They just sparkle. I don't know what it is about it. So weird. Are we gonna have an Easter disco party? I don't know. Probably not, but they're still fun, and I love how they showcase color. I think these would be, believe it or not, I think these would be beautiful in a glass dome, like a cloche. I think that'd be so pretty because the light would still go through it and reflect it, and then you can have them piled up, kind of like how I did the Santa mugs. So yeah, pretty fun. Just take it off the stick, and there you go. So there we have it, disco eggs with alcohol ink. So when you think, especially if you're new to alcohol inks, that's where this really comes into play. It's a nice starter pack depending on what colors speak to you. I did ask that, like, which palette do you like? And most people answered what I did, which is I like them all.
Those disco eggs are beautiful. I'm just watching them shine.
You see?
Look at them. I mean, they're
just from moving.
Yeah.
They don't have to move, just what moves around you. So I said, it's a mesmerizing thing. There's no denying it. You just have to. You just have to enjoy it. And so even this, like on a vintage tray, I'm a vintage guy. There's something about this. Something about it. You can't be all Judgy McJudge. Okay, that was alcohol ink on the whole disco egg. That was good fun, wasn't it? I mean, you got to say that's good fun. All right. So another thing that I found at the craft store, and I've been getting these for years, are wooden eggs. So I talked about the wooden eggs, and especially using the wooden eggs, the smaller ones with foil. Okay. So for this, I wanted to just do something a little different. What is going? The light is so crazy. My hands. I'm not sure why.
down or up?
I don't know. It's a little strange. It's probably from all that disco ball foil. Like my hands just became like, they're strange looking. Because I just looked in the camera. I'm like, whoa, the egg just kind of washed out. Here, let me see what happens. I could screw this up even worse. It's not any better. It doesn't matter. No, I think we're okay. I want to talk about wooden eggs and what else you can do. So we obviously talked about the foil wrapped. That's one thing. But I thought this was a little bit more my speed, a little bit more vintage, and maybe the speed for some of you, and that is staining wood eggs. I've seen this a lot on Instagram this year. Just, even like Country Home did this because it's really beautiful. Now, people are using different things. I've seen people use vinegar and actually the Easter dye tablets, remember those, to do that. I've also seen people use like RIT dye, a fluid dye. So you can try a bunch of different things. I wanted to see how it would work with distress. And so we're going to use distress on that. And I love how this looks because you can do pastel, but you can also do beautiful, bold, vintage colors. And it's really simple. Now these I just have in a cheese box, like an old vintage cheese box. I used to sell cheese in a box. I stuffed the bottom with brown craft paper, again, so I didn't have to use so much grass, but I have a lot of Easter grass. And then, yeah, what's interesting though, you're going to see about the eggs is like a lot of them have this band, probably from how they're turned on the machine, which I didn't mind it, but I love the ones that, where it comes into that circle because it just stains so cool. So let's play around. We're going to talk about how we create those. I'll bring those back in just a second. So like I said, because we want to add translucent color, I'm going to use spray stain. Now you might be saying, well, could I use alcohol ink on it? Yes, but the alcohol ink really is saturated. Remember, alcohol ink is for non-porous surfaces, things like plastic and disco eggs, okay? That's what this specialty is. Distress is for porous things, paper, wood, fabric. So if you put alcohol ink on this egg, it's going to be very, very dark and you cannot lighten it. okay, because the color is soaked into the surface. That's why we want to play with an ink. Now, like I said, you don't have to use Distress. You can use whatever it is that you want to use. Let's see, what color do I want to do? I'm looking at these eggs again. I really love this Uncharted Mariner, so I'm just going to do it again. But some pastel ones. Let's talk about colors, because I did play around. I swatched quite a bit of them. There were a few sacrificial eggs where Mario's like, what are you doing with these? I'm like, look, the only way to see how this color is going to look is on the surface I'm using it on. So I didn't have a piece of scrap wood, so I had some eggs, and that's what I tested it on, because you have to see how the colors are going to look. So for the pastel eggs, these little pale ones, I used Tattered Rose. That created that nice little pink, but you could use spun sugar. If you want it brighter, you could use Kitsch Flamingo. The orange, that was dried marigold. That's nice, a little peachy. I like how that is. Scattered straw, I like that. But you could, if you didn't want scattered straw, if you wanted a little brighter, you could use squeezed lemonade. That'd be a bright, lighter color. Bundled sage. Bundled sage is really nice. I use peeled paint on the darker ones, but bundled sage is really nice. And I will say that this little seam around it was more visible on lighter colors than dark, which that kind of makes sense. Weathered wood, because, well, hello, weathered wood. We needed that. I love that blue. And then this was milled lavender. Now, if you didn't want milled lavender, you could obviously do shaded lilac or a brighter color. So those are the colors that I use for the light eggs, pastel, like that. Then on the dark ones, and we'll get into the demo, I just want to talk about color. This one was fired brick. So I do love that red. Isn't that beautiful? I've got to get rid of that ink spot. It's going to drive me crazy. I can't stand to look at that ink spot for the rest of the live. A little alcohol ink, I'm sure. And I think there was a little bit on the mat. See it? I'm just going to see. This is where my OCD, you probably can't see that. To me, it is like a giant sphere in the center of this. It's a little pink alcohol ink. There we go. Now we can get back to our regularly scheduled broadcast. Mario's used to this.
It's normal.
He's totally used to me just like, I stop even mid-sentence and he's like, you haven't finished it yet. I'm like, I can't finish that thought yet. Okay.
When you do that.
Yeah. All right. So back to this. Fired brick. I love the red of this because it is that more of that warmer red, but again, you can use whatever the colors you want. Orange, no surprise. Rusty hinge. I just didn't want a bright orange, and I loved, like, I almost did crackling campfire, but I stuck with rusty hinge. But crackling would look just beautiful as well. Fossilized amber. I just wanted that kind of dirty yellow. I like that it even got like a little mustard seed in there, but it was really just fossilized amber. Peeled paint, told you. Like, seriously, I just love that green egg. But I almost used crushed olive. Gosh, I couldn't decide. Forest moss would look good too. Rustic wilderness, gosh, go on and on. And this is Uncharted Mariner. I just wanted something that, I almost did faded jeans, and faded jeans is really beautiful. It is a great blue, but I also wanted a teal, so that's where I went with Uncharted Mariner, because it kind of played right in the middle. And then for purple, well, Dusty Concord, because I just wanted that true grape purple. Seedless Preserve is going to be a little redder. Villainous Potion is going to be way dark. So there you go. Those are the colors that I use there. But play around with what you have. Now, if you don't have spray stains, could you use re-inkers? Yeah, you could use re-inkers. You could try food coloring. Try whatever's going to work. I'm using stain because it worked the best. It worked the most consistent, and it dried wonderful. If you do oxide, oxide is not going to be translucent. So oxide is a pigment. So if you're going to do oxide, they're going to look kind of chalky, which is going to be fine, but it won't work for the next step that I'm going to share with you either. But you do you. I'm just showing you what I did on this one and why I did it. Okay. Back to the egg. Back to Uncharted Mariner. We'll probably do a couple. I'm going to even take, let's do a light color. Let's do a little bundled sage as well. Okay. I'm going to go back to getting a splat box. You could, again, just do whatever's going to work for you. I knew I needed something. Mario, could you hand me a glove, please?
Sure.
From down there, or wherever you can grab one. Yeah. I want a glove because you only need to glove up one hand. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Thank you. But if you don't mind getting ink on your hands, go for it. But heck, I love getting ink on my hands, but not during a live. I don't know why. It just drives me crazy when I get too inky. Too inky too early. Okay. So what you're going to do is just take a spray stain and just spray the egg. I have it on a paper towel to kind of catch a lot of the overflow All right. I saw a question, can you use mica stain? You can. The mica doesn't like to sit on the wood though, so the stain will look great, but a lot of that mica, oops, oh, there went my eggs. A lot of the mica would actually rub off when you touched it. So that's the thing, but the stain part would work. So yeah, if you have mica stain, go for it. You might get a little bit of that shine left over, but not much. So after I sprayed it, I just wrapped the paper towel around it because that's what gives me the best effect to show the wood grain. If you let it sit longer, more color will soak in and it will become darker. Totally an option, but that's why I did a paper towel and I just wrapped it and did it, and that's that. Okay, thanks Mario, good save.
I think they were wood.
I know. Eggs rattle and roll. Oh, you did good putting them back in there. Yeah, I just kind of bumped into it. Okay, so this is what we have. I'm going to spray another one real quick. Let's leave that egg there. So I do replace the paper towel. I do make sure that my gloved hand is clean. So what I do if I'm doing eggs and I'm using a glove, just if you can go to the sink or just spray your hand with water, because you want to get whatever remaining dye is off the glove, just like the cup. Remember? So black gloves especially, because you won't see, look at all that blue that was there. So if I was doing, say, a yellow egg next, I would have blue and transfer it everywhere. So just kind of be aware of that. Okay, let me move that tin out of the way. So this next one, let's do one that's bundled sage. That's a pretty color. I like this one a lot. Okay, so same rules apply. Just hold the egg. That's why I do gloves, because you want to move the egg around without wasting a lot of stain. And you can take your glove and kind of move it around as well. But once it's covered in all the areas, just, again, take that paper towel, rub it around the edge, wipe off any excess that might be on your glove, and there it is. Pretty, isn't it? We're going to let that dry for a second. That's it. I mean, it's super simple. You get the idea that if you have sprays, it makes it really, really simple. Okay, let me get these sprays. Just move these bottles out of the way. So next we're going to just talk about the next steps. I would say let me bring these back. Oh, you did all right. You did all right. I like this other color. You did. Yep. But see, I love all those colors. Okay. So the thing to note about this is that they need to dry, because these are still, they're wet, not wet soaking, but they're wet. So this is where I would just set them aside, set them in a warm area that you can put those anywhere you want. I'm just going to take a heat tool just because I want to dry it. Could you use the fan? Yes. But you don't need to heat dry these, but you want these to dry before the next step. But because I'm not going to wait, I want to have all this part of the same spot of this video, I'm going to use my heat tool. But again, just let them dry, or dry them with a heat tool or a fan. Okay, there we go. There we go. There we go. Alcohol markers on the baskets. I don't see why not. Alcohol ink is alcohol ink, whether it's in a marker or a bottle, for sure. Can you sand the ring? You could try whatever you want. I think if you sand it, you're going to lose that smooth finish. And you're probably going to make the ink, sanded wood makes the ink absorb even darker. So now you're going to trade a light band for a dark band. But yeah, I like it.
Cool.
I love the imperfections. Yeah. I love the imperfections of it. But yeah, go for it. Okay, there we go. Excellent. Okay, so now we have these eggs. So now this is where I want to show you, because I did these and I'm like, oh, I really like them. They look great. They're beautiful. But they didn't have that like wow factor, you know, this like really intense factor. Even on the lighter colors, let me bring this in. It just had like a chalky finish. So I'm like, what can I do to like really almost like oil it? So I was thinking like olive oil or all that, but I didn't really want to do that. And I was like, as a maker, what do I have? Yes, Distress Microglaze. Distress Microglaze is a sealer for distress inks that you can put on cards, you can put it on anything, even watercolor. You can actually rub it onto the paper and then it seals the ink. It makes it waterproof. So that's, I don't typically talk about sealing. This isn't so much for sealing them because I don't plan on, you know, putting them out in the rain. But if they were to get wet, it's not going to run as much. But I'm just going to take a little bit of microglaze, put some on my finger. I just like to put some on the glass because I don't want a ton of it to start. And then I'm just going to take both hands, put that into the microglaze, and I'm just going to work that glaze into the egg. So you can see already by doing that, the color becomes way more luminous, because if you've ever put microglaze over distress, the color becomes much brighter, right? And I'm just going to work that into the wood until I feel that. You'll feel it. Like if there's a spot that doesn't have any ink on it or any glaze on it, it's just going to be a little dry. So you're just going to work microglaze onto it. And then once you're done with that, you just take a dry paper towel and just kind of buff off the excess, and that's that. It's sealed, and the color is beautiful and intense. Okay, so there you go. See, the color is sealed in there. We're going to do the same thing on the green. Take like that much. You don't need a shovel amount.
That'll do you.
And then you put it on the glass. This way you can work with, both fingers, and you just start picking this up. You can always get more, but distress microglaze actually evaporates. Even though if you've never used it before and you pick it up, it feels like chapstick or Vaseline, and you think, oh, this is going to stay greasy. No, it actually evaporates. That's why you need to put the lid on it. Otherwise, it will evaporate right out of it. So just going to work that. See, look how that color is, like that bundled sage, and look at how, like, it even brings out all the detail of the wood. Oh, I just love it. Yeah, it's really cool. And the paper towel is just to get off any excess. You could skip the paper towel step, but then it might take a little bit longer for it to dry. But there you go, finished egg. So you can mix them together, it doesn't matter. But that's it. It's really just taking wood eggs and spray stain and microglaze. Pretty crazy. I think that's really, really fun. So keep that in mind when you're thinking about some Easter decor and how you want to do this, because I love the idea of these being around. And of course, you can do so many things on eggs like this. This was just the simplest way, but you can do rub-ons, you can do collage paper. I mean, there's a lot of artsy things you can do to eggs. I get that. But I love the simplicity and probably the organic look of just a wood egg. Quite a contrast from disco eggs, right? But see, there you go. Spray stain and microglaze, and you're set. And you can bring them out year after year and do your thing. And hey, if you're into like wood burning and detail, my gosh, sky's the limit. Okay, moving on. I'm going to make sure that I don't throw the eggs on the ground again. Sorry, Mario. Scared him. All right, so I'm just going to take a cloth and get rid of that. Microglaze it, just wipes off. All right, so good. I just saw again, please bring back the Distress Crayon Bundled Sage. I saw that in the last live. Bundled Sage did not go anywhere. It's not retired. It just sold out for right now. And Ranger's just waiting to get it in stock because it's not in a kit. So just trust that it's going to come. If you go to their website or whoever sells Bundled Sage, I'm sure a lot of retailers have the notify me. Just click that, and when Bundled Sage comes back in, you'll get it. Anyway, a little diversion. Okay, now we're back to what we were talking about. So let's talk next. Let's see. I did baskets, I did eggs, I did rabbits, I did disco, I did wood. Okay, let's keep playing. Just because I'm having fun now. We're going to talk backgrounds. Now, when it comes to Easter and spring ideas, that's what this is all about. I think one of the things that I love the most about now not having much of an agenda is that I can kind of do what I want. I love that. So these recently came out, and I decided to put this in this Easter live just because there were a lot of questions, and I thought what a perfect opportunity to talk about it and educate people on multi-level, because maybe you don't know what it is, or maybe you assume that you know the differences, and it's really a cool thing. So Sizzix just launched multi-level folders that I did with them. We called them Vault, and here's why. These, I think there were 5 folders. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, 5 designs. These were actually old school designs. These were designs that came out back in the day when I used to sell like these little 2-packs with Sizzix, or some of them were even single packs. But these were just regular embossing folders, long before the day of 3D and everything. Remember, just like, what we called like a 2D embossing folder. They were just thin plastic, and you ran it through pretty much every machine that you wanted and just did it like normal. These were all those types of designs. They were all just a 2D design. And we talked about doing a more dimensional version of it, something to bring back from the vault. Now, there's a little confusion between a multi-level and a 3D. And it's pretty simple to understand once you get the distinct difference. The folder of a multi-level and a 3D is the same thickness. So it is that much thicker folder. The difference, though, is just in the design and how, as a designer, I choose to go through it, okay? So a 3D is a contour design where it's three-dimensional, right? 3D, three-dimensional. So it actually has a contour or a curve. A multi-level, it's the same height as far as its highest point of a 3D, but instead of it being contoured or dimensional, it is built up in levels, multi-level. So if you just look at just the difference between a 2D meaning like there's your base and then it like rises up. So there you go, 1, that's your lowest, 2 is your highest. Okay, so that's why it's a 2D. There's your folder. A multi-level, we actually inserted like a mid-range level. So you can see here like on this airplane, you've got your base and you've got your high point, but now we have a mid-level, and instead of it being contoured, which it could be, I wanted it as a level. So it's really just a choice, a design choice, meaning you would follow all the same ways that you would use a regular 3D folder. You would use that in your machine, whether that's your multi-pass, that's your one cutting plate, all that stuff. But that's really the difference when people go, so is it the same as the other ones? No, because you can even see that scale is different. So if you own the original one, besides that it's just 2D, we actually went bigger. Okay, so we made a bigger folder because these are A6 folders. It's bigger than an A2. So you do get a difference in scale. But like on certain designs, and that's really what it was when I chose the designs, and a shout out to Jen at Sizzix because she worked on these where we took old art that I did with EL and she went in and had to kind of outline everything to get that multi-level. But the gears, I love this one as an original, but I really love it as a multi-level because we were able to add that mid-range break. I've done other gears that are 3D. Again, you'll see those are more contoured. They have little slivery details. It just depends on what you want as a designer. This one of my favorites, the diamond. I love it. I loved it as a 2D, but like as a 3D, we were able to totally change it by poofing these up. But also when you flip it, then you get the lines that are raised. So this one, they're all cool front or back because you can have an innie or an outie, but I really love this diamond one for that. And I'm going to show some techniques, so I don't want you to be rolling your eyes going, oh, here we go, infomercial for the folders. No, there's a technique involved, but it gave me an opportunity to kind of explain this. This is a great one, this lace one, because look at that break on the multi-level. And you might not see it on camera, but the technique is really going to show like why would I want a multi-level, or why as a designer would you choose multi-level when you could do 3D? Completely different. There's a flourish, and then there's the multi-level. It just adds that other step. So that's what I'm going to talk about is what you can do with a multi-level design. What is the benefit of wanting a multi-level folder? And I think for backgrounds, especially for, really spring, Easter, it could be anything. There's a lot of great stuff that we can do with the folders. So I'm going to bring those in. I'm going to talk about the backgrounds. All right. Yeehaw. Let's move this out of the way. Okay. So we'll start with this one. That's going to be the lace. Let me just find it here. There we go. Our multi-level lace. So when you just emboss it, you get that wonderful, great multi-level detail. So just on its own is really beautiful, but this is where we start playing around with the technology of multi-level. And that is when it comes to using inks and oxides. Okay, distress ink and distress oxide. And that's what I'll talk about that. I'll share. I just brought out a few colors. I actually brought out the colors that I use so I don't get all crazy with myself and doing so many different things. But what's really nice about this is that you can ink up a folder and run it through and it will deboss the color. Typically when I do that, I'm using an oxide. So if I want the color to be on the foundation or base layer, I prefer an oxide. Does that mean you can use an ink? You can use whatever you want to try to use, but oxide, because it's a dye and pigment, it tends to cling to the plastic better to give me a more uniform debossed color. If you try this with ink, it looks a bit more splotchy. Not to say there's a wrong way, but that's just what I prefer, is that if I'm going to do a debossed color, I use oxide. This is where multi-level gets really interesting. Once you do that, you have two levels at play. Because remember, we've debossed the color, but we have a multi-level design. Now if I go in with a brayer, and I brayer the same color that I debossed, I'll try to hold this up so you can see. I actually get a little white outline because not only do we have the high point, you see this little white thin lace? That's the same level as the mid-range level. So it's not as high as this, it's that second step. See where it comes out from that level? Multi-level. So we don't just take the design and go, split it in two. we're like, okay, here's the design. What do we want to have the highest level? What do we want as the mid level? And what do we want to keep as the base level? This is where Jen really like totally shines. So this little intricate part, we kept in that mid level. So it connects to that. And then we did a lot of these like outer flowers as the highest level, the high point. So what's cool about going in and using a brayer after you embossed is that now instead of everything being white, we were able to add a color to that, the highest point, but still keep that mid-range relatively white, and also create that little skinny outline, also white. So it just adds,
so cool.
It just adds another detail. You could stop here. Heck, you could stop here. You could say, I'm good with this. Oh no, I just want to ink it. Oh wait, I want to deboss the ink and brayer the ink. Ooh, okay. But then what if you change ink styles? What if you said, okay, well, what if I want to brayer the same color, but instead of oxide where it's kind of chalky, what if I want to use ink or even a contrasting color, doesn't matter. You can get that layer to be more distinct. So see how when I did oxide and oxide, like inked and brayered, it looks really nice. But if I did deboss oxide but brayered ink, it's just, there's way more contrast because now we have a soft color in the background, white in the mid-range, and ink at the high point. See, get that, really cool. Pretty magical, right? So I'm going to demo this just to talk about that, and then we'll go through some other designs, but I just want to kind of make sure you understand this before I talk about the other samples, okay?
Those are cool.
It's really fun. I absolutely love this because I did this with, I'm going to talk about the flourish and all the folders. Simplicity, we'll take that one. All right, roll up my sleeves for this. Okay, we're just going to take our machine. I'll have this off to the side. Use whatever machine's going to work for you. We just have our platform and one cutting pad, and off we go. Okay, but this is really about the whole inking part. So when I open the folder, I want to do the side that's raised, but it's also the printed side. So if you get confused on the Sizzix ones, they're printed. But we want to do the side that debosses color. Now, technically, could you ink the other side instead and deboss that design? Absolutely. Could you ink both sides and do it? Well, sure, if you plan on showing both sides, but if you're going to glue it down, inking the other side would be a waste. But yes, if you wanted to deboss this, but have this whole thing more of a flower, see how the back side, this looks more like a flower, and that looks more, well, I guess they both look like a flower, but that just looks more like lace to me. Go for it, okay? But typically on the folders, it's wider. See, it's got that little notch. It's wider on the front, but it's also printed, so that should help you. I'm going to take my oxide ink and I'm just going to go direct, okay? And for this one, I like to kind of, you can see I'm twisting and swishing this one around because the plastic, it's an injection mold, so it has some different facets to it. So I find that, you know, could you stay linear? Yes, I'll show you what that looks like on another technique, but I'm just squishing this. Now, I'm not smashing it in because I don't want to get ink into the recessed areas. I just want to hit the high points, and that felt is really good. Be aware of these little straggler things from a felt pad. It just happens. It is what it is, especially if you're really aggressive doing that, like a cheese grater. We're not grating cheese, we're just inking a folder. But if that happens, just pull off any little fibers before you emboss it. Now, the question, to spray or not to spray? Well, I don't spray because I'm embossing on 114-pound watercolor paper. You can spray if you feel that you want to spray it with water because your paper's tearing or something. That's just going to be a personal choice. I'm just going to take, and if I don't want to use watercolor paper, I can even do something heavier. I could do a 130-pound mixed media or mixed media white. Go for it. Doesn't matter. Just take your paper, put it in the folder, take your machine, try to angle the folder if you can. If you can't, it's fine, but it's just going to make it go through the machine a little bit easier. Get it to grab, hold on, roll it through. Now, can you roll it through multiple times? Absolutely. Depending on your machine and the pressure, if you need to go through multiple times, go for it, okay? I'm perfectly happy with one pass because this machine, the Foldaway, is the most powerful pressure machine that I've ever seen. It's even more powerful than the Vagabond was. I mean, it's got some serious pressure. But here's what we have. It's beautiful. Debossed color magic. Now, how do you clean the folder? This is a water-based ink. So any guesses? Water. That's it. Good job, Mario. You can, I just go and take it in the sink, just run it under water and dry it off. But you can spray it, you can take a baby wipe, but water will clean it off even after it dries. So don't think you've got to go rush off to the sink. Water will clean off this ink because distress is not oxide or ink is not a permanent ink. It's a water-based ink. So there you go. I'm just going to move that up to the side. I'll hand it to Mario. Thanks, Mario. Yeah, thank you. He was ready to do that. Okay. So now we'll get into, and I'll treat this one more as like a little demo. So I'll just do, maybe I'll do part and pieces, all that. So here's just our debossed color. Now one part I'll do with oxide. So I'm going to take a brayer. This is a distress brayer. If you have these brayers, it comes in two sizes. It comes in a mini and it comes in a big. You can use whatever. Some people like the bigger one because it just goes quicker. I think this one's better for this technique because it's lighter. It's more like a sports car because we don't want a lot of pressure. We don't want to push down and get ink where we don't want it. If you're using this, it's got little feet that is designed to sit down so you don't get a flat part on your brayer. So when you go to ink it, kickstands have to be up and you're just going to roll and lift. In fact, where is that thing? There we go. I got it. Thanks, Mario. Just a piece of media grip. Okay, just because I don't want my ink pad sliding around. So I'm just going to roll and lift. When you're inking a brayer, you want to roll, lift, because back and forth, you're only going to ink half the roller. And then it looks really skippy. So all I'm going to do, I'm just going to do part of this one. So I'm just going to take the brayer. I didn't even need that much ink. I was just showing you how to. And so you can go in different directions. Just look at it until you're happy with it. I'm only going to ink half of this with oxide because I want to do the other half with ink. Okay. So already you can see the difference between the inked side and the uninked side. We still get the white and we still get the white in that debossed area. Okay? Easy enough. That was oxide and oxide. So to clean the brayer, I'm just going to you can take a cloth, I just typically take a paper towel and I spray it with water and you just roll it through to clean the ink off. That's easy. But you can also just easily pull the handles apart and take out the roller and clean that off. But we want to clean off the oxide because I did that one first. That kind of take that off. There you go. And just pops right back in. Okay. Now the other one, we're going to change to ink. And it's the same. This is spun sugar, but it could be any color. Maybe you want to really step it up and you're like, I want that color to really pop. I want it to be picked raspberry or worn lipstick or kitsch flamingo. Go for it. But I just want to show you that simply changing the ink type of the same color will provide more contrast because oxide is a dye in pigment. Ink is just a dye, and dye has way more color integrity than an oxide. It just does. It's more intense. So now I'm going to do this side with the ink. Now for this one, I just kind of hold the brayer a little different. Like I hold it between two fingers just because I actually want it to be more of a delicate roll. I find that if I'm holding it traditional, like I almost want to be like a steamroller. And for this one, especially on embossing, the lighter you are, go over it a few times because it may not catch the first time, but don't think that means you need to press harder. It just means like maybe go at it at a different angle and it's going to work. And you can always ink up more. But really, the more light-handed you are, so this helps me be light-handed because I am pretty heavy-handed on stuff. You can already see before I even hold it up, just the distinct difference in color. So there you go. So that's debossed in oxide, brayered in oxide. That's debossed in oxide, brayered in the coordinating color of distress ink. And as it dries, it does dry out to be, see, a little bit more smoothie, especially on paper. That's still wet ink, but it'll dry. But just a fun option for multi-level and when to kind of play into that. Because I do think that if you don't understand the technology, you look at it and you're like, oh, okay, I have the design. And you may still think, oh, I have that design, or I wish I never did. But understanding why a multi-level exists or why I would have chosen to do a design in multi-level, that's why I like to ink things. And not every design works as a multi-level. And not every design works as a 3D. There's just something about the art that lends itself to being more stepped, and there's something about the art that I want it to be more contour. It's really just a choice, okay? So speaking of, let's go into the other designs. I'm gonna take some of this, let me get all these papers. I got papers everywhere. Okay, let's talk about Flourish, because I do love this one. I love the Flourish as a regular, but as a multi-level, it's so cool. So here, we already know what we've done here. We've debossed in Salvaged patina oxide. That gave us our blue patina color. But then I inked in brown. Doesn't always have to be matchy-matchy, but I inked with distress ink in frayed burlap. And I love that I still got the white highlights. There's the multi-level. Because if you're like, well, I can just do that with my folder, Captain. Yes, you could. but you're only going to get blue and brown because you don't have that mid level. See that little white outline? It's like instant highlights when you do it with something that's way more contrast than like tone on tone. Isn't that cool? Just, I mean, it looks so much more three-dimensional, and now you've seen how it's done. The technology, so simple. And if you're not into all the color, you can still get a flourish to look like wood grain. So this one, my oxide, was scorched timber. But if you look closely, you see the striations in the color in the background? See how it's not so saturated like this one? Because remember when I was talking about inking the folder, let me grab this folder, and when you saw the demo for the lace, remember I was taking the ink pad and doing a twist and turn? To create a wood grain, you're just going to take your oxide and you're going to swipe it. So when you're inking the folder, you just stay linear. And even if you have to go back the other way, you just stay in that direction. Or you could try a crosshatch, I suppose, but that's how I inked this up. I didn't push, I didn't twist. I just wanted to kind of create that effect. And what it did is that when it inked, you can see those striations from the ink pad. It almost looks like it's kind of dripping off of the design. Isn't that cool? It's so fun. So that was debossed in scorched timber oxide. And then my brayer color, because I wanted something a little bit darker than frayed burlap, I started out with a little bit of walnut stain. That was okay because I wanted a two-tone on the top. So see some of that lighter color is walnut stain. And then I went and did a very light layer of scorched timber in the ink. So you can just play around. Really, the possibilities, endless on that. So that creates kind of a faux wood grain, if you will. And then if you want to just get all crazy and fun, play around with colors. Once you start this, it's just going to be really fun to just sit down with your inks and folders. That's where I was like, texture meets technology, because the technology of this really allows the use of all the inks and art mediums that we have in different ways. So this one, let's talk about that. This one inked in the Salvaged patina. So we'll go back to that one. We inked that one. Then my top layer, that was Rusty Hinge because I wanted it to be a bit more orange. But then I wanted to add more color. I wanted to add some shadow. So you just take a blending tool. And that's where I went back to my browns, inked the edge. I did a little inking inside. You don't have to just stick to the edges, kind of do a little dance, but don't cover up everything so you still have some light areas. And then sprayed it with water, and there you go. There's all my little drippage. So you've seen us do that with backgrounds of distress. So all the things that you know before, that makes it really fun and really cool. So looking at a folder, a multi-level, you're like, okay, well, it's just pretty. It can be. It could be great for spring, but it could also just be good with a wonderful wood grain. I mean, you could even say just using this for more of an earthy vibe, but it can also have a grunge aesthetic to it. It's the design, but you are the artist with your ink pads and your tools, whatever it is that you're going to work with. I did see a question about the grip. This is media grip. It comes in a roll. You cut it up into all different sizes. I've done videos on media grip. So I have grip to go under tags, to go under cards. It's not sticky like a sticky mat, but it has grip to it. So, I just have some cut for the ink pad because, when you try to brayer an ink pad, if you didn't have that, you would get that wonderful little screech. So yeah, media grip. Gosh, isn't that weird? I just use stuff without even thinking of it. Okay, other designs. One of my favorites, I love airmail, so I wanted to create something that's a little vintage. So this is just mixed media, all the same technologies. All I did here on this one, we just debossed. Now, I didn't deboss a color on this one. I just sprayed it with antique linen just to start. So I just started with an inky piece of paper because I didn't care. I just wanted it in the background. And all of this color is just done with a blending tool. So there was no inking of the folder of this one. This was starting with an inked background, piece of paper, embossed, and then I just used, to get all those different colors, I prefer using a tiny blending tool. It just makes it so much easier. So I've got my whole little set of tiny blending tools. So that just allowed me to go in and say like, oh, a little bit of blue, a little bit of blue, a little bit of red, and a little bit of brown. But yeah, isn't that design so good? I'll admit, this one's not great if you don't ink it. I'll show you the uninked one. It looks a little blurry because there's so much detail. See, like it's okay, but you don't really, oh, it's upside down. There you go. Like a lot of times on the text and stuff, it just gets a little weird for my eye. But man, when you ink it, it's like it comes into focus. Isn't that good? So good. I love this one. So great. And then sometimes just changing your paper. We don't even have to do anything with ink. This is the diamond one, the multi-level. And so this is just showing, because, you know, we talked about the folders having, you can flip it around, right? Do either or. But typically if you embossed in it, you're flipping the paper over, right? Well, if it's just white, it doesn't matter because you can just flip it and it's going to be front and back. But what if it's metallic and it doesn't have metallic on the back? That's just about like, okay, I'm going to make sure that when I emboss it, I put my paper in one way, and then the next one, when I emboss it, I put my paper upside down. That's how you can get the different effects. That's what I did on, this is just Ideology metallic craft stock, because I can still sand this and ink it and do all that. But just look at the difference between this pattern. See how those diamonds are puffy and raised, which is, I love that. But I also love when they're debossed and you have these really raised, almost like a lattice work. See, and I think seeing is believing. Seeing those dimensions, that's really where it's like, wow. Yeah, it's one of my favorites. I don't know, it has like an Art Deco, Great Gatsby vibe to it. And just on metallic, that's why I said, like I did on metallic, and I thought, I don't need to do anything. I love this. I'll cut it up and use it as a band of something, or it could be a full background. But then we can also take our metallic. So this is the silver metallic craft stock. Craft stock metallic comes in a lot of different colors. And then this one is just done with a little bit of distress paint. So I've shown this technique for years. You can just see it, but it's really embossing and then putting paint on. I'll do this one. I have a bottle of paint. Let's see if I have a, I do. I always have my little handy black. This is not ink. That's why it's not in with general population. This is paint. So it stays out. You can have one for paint. You can have one for embossing ink. I have many of these little ones. But I'll just show you how quick you can transform. So again, both of these are craft stock. So this is it's a printed metallic. It's a 100-pound cover weight. So it's really robust. Take some paint. This is just black. You can take whatever color you want. I've seen people do this with patina colors, you know, salvage patina or whatever. And just carefully apply the paint to the surface. There you go. Blob it on there, is all I'm saying. And then just take that and work the paint in. The reason I'm using this is because I want that little dome squish, because I want to get paint in the recessed areas more than anything. So the foam allows me to do it, because you're like, well, could you use felt? Could you use a brayer? Well, on this one, we want the paint to be inside. So even after I move it around, I'm pouncing this. I don't have my little Post-it note to hold underneath. No, that's fine. Do you have one handy? Mario's like, do you need one? I'm like, yeah, sure.
I got everything.
Because I have this, thanks.
Sure.
So I'm just going to use a Post-it note and just slide that under there. There you go. This way you don't have fingerprints. So you can move this around. If you have a Post-it note, do this on inky backgrounds too. All right, so I just took that black paint and just kind of worked that in. And it doesn't matter if it's heavier or lighter in some areas. In fact, if you do that, bonus, okay? This is acrylic paint. Someone else could use acrylic paint. Distress paint is acrylic paint. So yes, this just doesn't have any fillers, but try it with the paint you have. As long as it does what I'm going to show you from start to finish, then yes, you can. Most acrylic paints should work perfectly. Okay. So once this is on there, we need it to dry for a few seconds, but not indefinitely, because paint, once it dries, is permanent. So if you let this dry, it's on there, and now you're going to be sanding it off. And that's really the benefit of distress paint. It doesn't have any fillers in it, so it's really thin and fluid, and it's going to allow me to not only put this on, but also start taking this off. So I'm just going to use a paper towel. I can use my fingers now because this is going to get kind of messy in a bit. And I'm going to start lifting off that paint, okay? And I'm just lightly swiping with a paper towel in different directions. You'll see, I'll hold it up in stages. See what that's doing? See how it's starting to bring back some of that silver? Okay. And don't worry if you go into some of the recessed areas, but think like how you would want your metal to look. If this dried completely and you forgot, you could use steel wool as well. Steel wool is a great thing over metallic cardstock to create some effects. But I'll show you what I'm doing. See how I'm going in and pulling out some of that black paint just with a paper towel, because the paper towel is really rough. So see how I can lift that? So when I see like some dark paint, just start wiping over it and it start taking it off. That's why you want to do this where it's kind of wet, because it allows kind of some drag or striations. And as you're doing this, you're going to see that paint starts to dry where it's not coming off. Then you just apply a little bit more pressure when you're trying to remove some of the paint, especially wherever you want it to be. And then I'll show you where the fingertips come into play. Okay. So once you're happy with it, so like I'm happy with that effect, then I just like to actually take my fingers and go into some of these deep areas. See, it will stick to my, because this will wash off my hands, but see how I can pull some of that paint out of those deep areas? See, just with my fingertip. See that? So I like that. Otherwise, I mean, if you wanted to leave them totally black, you can, but this just makes it so much easier. And then, heck, if I touch something with little paint on my finger, it's just going to add to the effect. But I just kind of do that until I'm happy with the results. Like that, I'm happy with. Isn't that beautiful? Crazy to start with a shiny piece of metal and give it some industrial grunge. And of course, once this dries, you could go in with distressed crayons and add some rust and patina and gosh, all sorts of things. It's crazy. Now I'm just going to clean this off. A little bit of water. A little bit of water on my fingers to take off the black paint. Super simple, right? All right. If you ever get paint that dries on your glass, hand sanitizer takes that off as well. So if you ever have, say, dried acrylic paint or collage medium or anything on your glass mat, hand sanitizer will take that off. Just let it sit for a second. It'll just eat right through it. So it's pretty cool. So there you go. That was fun. Listen to me. A lot of different ideas for multi-level. So even though this isn't an Easter and spring, which really, let's face it, these are very Easter springy backgrounds. That's where I started. It did give me the opportunity to just talk about multi-level and show you some cool things that you can do with these folders. They're very cool. And there's other multi-level designs. It's not just these. So you can certainly try with any other multi-level designs just to get the play. But yeah, get a lot of fun backgrounds. Okay, moving right along.
You got so
That's
much
fun.
stuff.
I know, I've got piles of stuff.
Do you want anything?
No, thanks. I'm good, Mario. Thank you. Ooh,
Ooh.
screechy
No
pads.
grip.
That's why I use the grip. Okay, I got one other thing. I got time. Let's play with this. This will be quick. This is just something fun. Because sometimes, again, ideas spark other ones. So that's what I want to talk about. And when I talk about ideas, this isn't totally Easter spring, but my point is that you can make anything seasonal if you think about it, okay? So this is the new little, it's not really I call it the clipboard die, but it totally isn't. This is the Vault. This is noteworthy. But this has that great clipboard that I've seen so many of you guys make and share. Thank you for sharing the makes on social and tagging me. I absolutely love that. But I shared this little one about creating a little clipboard with this Photomatic. And we did a lot of fun things. And so I really wanted to use this for Easter. So I'm like, oh, what can I do? And of course, the obvious was, just stick a rabbit on it and call it Easter. But I don't want to do that. I wanted to think like, how could I do this? And it got me like, this was last night. This was in the home stretch. Because it had nothing to do with Easter, but the clipboard was calling to me and I'm like, I'm going. And it was like, I just started, Mario comes in, I don't know, it's like 7 o'clock at night. He goes, I thought you were done. I go, I am. But like one thing sparked another and product was coming out and it was crazy. All right, so I just want to talk about how it started. It started with a clipboard. And then I also remembered this pennant card that I did for Valentine's Day and for St. Patrick's Day with that coffee stain. It was like, that's where my brain was going. It was kind of cooking between, this and this. So I started going through the index, which if you don't use the index is the inventory feature on timholtz.com, and it has all the products in there. So I was just scrolling through the stamps, looking at Stampers Anonymous, and I'm like, okay, something's got to spark, and like it hit me, okay? First, I found the mini version of this, okay, because I often did minis of a lot of stamps. It would have been great if I did minis of all my stamps, but a lot of them have minis, and I love the mini version of this. I mean, you can see it's super tiny. I'm like, score, I have a mini, going to work on a clipboard. Okay, I was set. So I had that done. Okay, so this one is CMS 063 Mini Muse, and it's got favorites. The Jalopy I know is a favorite, Umbrella Man, and that's a lot of favorites in minis. So I was set with the little splatter. But then I know some people have really good handwriting. I am not one of those people. but I wanted something that would like give it like an old school vibe to it. And this is what I ended up coming up with.
Bam.
A cute little, it's
Look at that.
just so fun, a little clipboard that looked like you were in class jotting down a little note, and it was like Easter time. And I'm like, oh, once I did Easter time, I was like, oh, I could do a birthday one, little make-a-wish, and oh, I can do little love notes. And then I just started making ones, and I didn't even have clipboards. I'm like, oh, I got 4th of July. Oh, you are my happy. Oh, I could do Christmas. I could do Halloween. It wouldn't stop. And it all had to do with literally these 2 stamp sets. This one, note quotes with noteworthy. Every single one of these little quotes that fit with these stamps, these all fit on the clipboard. And it has the best little handwritten font. So like a little note, focus on the good. You are my happy. It's the perfect sentiment. From a bold perspective, it stands out. You didn't have to do a lot with it. And it has everything from Easter to 4th of July to some Halloween, some Christmas, peace on earth, Valentine's, birthdays, but also just like thanks or hey there or you got this. So it was like, I'm totally down the rabbit hole. So now it was an inky splotch on my paper, like the card, sentiments, but then I needed to give it a little bit of something. But it still needed to look doodly. Enter mini crazy things. So crazy things came in 2 sizes, big and small. The big are just, it's the whole thing. I wanted to accent this little quote. So all of these little mini ones, it's everything I needed. It was bunny ears for Easter, a couple of options for Halloween, stuff for love or Valentine's Day or flowers or a flag or a hat or birthday. I wanted to do balloons as well. I wanted to get crazy. I almost did a balloon there as well. I'm like, edit, Holtz, edit. It was so simple. So that's what I'm going to show you. I'm just going to show you just the play of how easy it is to do the backgrounds.
Tell everyone about
So
your paper.
simple.
They want to know where the paper's from.
Oh my gosh. Then that just means they busted themselves because they didn't watch the live with this in because I talked about it. So I'll talk about it because it is an easy one. It's good. These are done using a notepad. This is just a notepad that I got from Amazon. You take out your notebook paper, I only take out a couple of sheets at a time. Okay. And you can cut this. Let's see. I have a die cut machine. I'll do it right now. I'll do it again. Why not? Okay. So I just take the paper. I don't like to do more than 2 sheets because if you put too much in the die, it'll leave an imprint on the paper because this paper is super thin. Okay.
The chat was blowing up about the paper.
Oh, okay then. Well, thanks, Mario. I'm glad. I mean, heck, we're here. So I'll chop this off. I'm just going to chop it a little bit because I don't need this extra. You could use it for something else, I suppose. But you asked how I do it, and this is how I do it. Okay. So I'll use it for scrap, use it for whatever. Okay. In this die set, you have the clipboard pieces. So the clipboards are made from the clipboard die. Okay. And I cut this out of distressed craft heavy stock. This is a 130-pound craft. But if you glue 4 of them together, you actually get a clipboard, like literally a clipboard that's not flimsy because you don't want to cut chipboard with this. So the clipboard totally works. Just remember when you're gluing them together that when you glue the top one on, oh, might as well just show them. Can you hand me that little piece of transparency on that ledge? Sure. Thanks, Mario. You guys asked, so I'll show you. So I cut a bunch of these and you glue them. You just put whatever liquid glue. I just use collage medium, glue another one, collage medium, another one. So you glue 3. On your 4th one, so if this is my 4th one, I just have a scrap piece of, you can use shrink plastic, transparency, whatever, and put it in that little slot before you glue on the top layer, because that's going to protect you from gluing this tab down. If you glue that down accidentally on your 4th layer, you're toast, because now the clip won't work. Because these are all, I mean, this really is it's a functioning clipboard. That little slot actually holds the papers or whatever you're putting in there. I also talked about how I use a little foam tape. That's how these actually can squeeze. Although it doesn't do anything, it just gives you that feel and illusion of a squeezy one. Go back and check out that video. But it's 4 layers of this. Then after it's glued together, I take a little sanding disc. This is just the sanding discs that work on the blending tool. And I sand the edges. By doing that, it actually covers up all 4 layers of cardstock. You know, sometimes when you glue cardstock, you can see the layers. When you sand the edges, it now looks like a solid piece of chipboard. Simple. Smoke and mirrors, that's what it all is. Okay, and then of course, I talked about this in the demo as well. These pieces are just done out of the same metallic cardstock, scuffed up with a little, that's what I use. I use a little sanding disc to create these little scratches. And then the little black distress crayon, and you have clipboards. So yeah, I did the demo. Definitely check it out. It's a lot of fun. But get yourself a pack of craft stock and some metallic paper, and you are in clipboard heaven. It's really, really fun. So I do like that 4-layer because I want them to be a clipboard. I don't want a piece of paper. But don't forget that little step of like protecting that little thing. I've done it too many times. So now I just have a piece. And the reason it's bigger is because now, let's just say I was gluing this together, okay? By having this, I put my liquid glue around it. I make sure that I don't have any glue close to this little thing. I can go all around the top, I'll go down the sides, I'll go down the bottom. But now this piece actually allows me to line it up perfectly because see, I can hold onto the sides and then stick it down, and I let it dry with the plastic in place. And then when it's done, slide it out. And then when you glue on your thing, that clip, that little slot stays open. So there you go. Hope that helps. I probably didn't share that tip in the last one because the more you make, the more you learn, right? Okay. So the notebook. The paper is cut using the die that's also in the set. This little frame die is designed to cut the pages that fit this clipboard. So all you do is get yourself some lined paper. Those little notepads just has like skinnier lined stuff. Position the die however you want it to be. If you want to have that little stripe, great. If you don't, you can just do lined paper. And I have stamps that do this as well, but man, this is so much easier. And then, since I don't need to bring in the machine again, I think I have, yeah, I always have one here. I always have a sidekick all around. You're just going to take this, let me place this down. Okay, that's bigger than my cutting pad. Not anymore, because I just want it to fit the cutting pad. Place the die down. You don't have to tape it. You don't have to do anything. Just kind of get a nice visual of what you like. Place the cutting pad on the die and then slide it over. Whoop, not like that, Holtz. I normally do this on my machine. That works. Nope. Here, let me just do it down here. Hold it down, slide it over, and then run it in your machine. Isn't that weird? Like I always work on the table, but working in your hands, like you just can't. And then you just pop it out, and there's your little notebook paper. You have the cutest little notebook paper for it. So that's all I do. It makes it fun. But that gives me some paper to stamp on. So hey, I'm glad someone asked. Because now we got paper to work on. So what I did to make them this fun little grungy stain, and you don't have to make them grungy. You can make them clean and cute and fun. Go for it. I just love the idea of like an old clipboard with like coffee stains. It was just fun. I'm not sure what that question is, so I'm just going to keep going. All right. So take my little splatter. The color that I use for splats is frayed burlap. So let me find it. But you could use old paper. You could use whatever. There we go. I have it right here. Little frayed burlap distress. Just ink it a little bit. Like you don't have to be really saturated. Just like tappity tap. And then you're going to spray the stamp. A couple of sprays with water. So off camera, that's like 3 sprays. So see, it's got some water drips on it. And then you're just going to kind of figure out where you want your stains and just stamp it. Push that off. See, it's like the perfect wet stained paper. Oh my gosh. It's the detail. It's those kind of things that I just find humor. It's hilarious to me. Yeah, the whole clipboard, it is a card embellishment. You're right. No, these would obviously, I mean, I suppose you could just hand someone a clipboard, but this was designed really to go on the front of a card. I just like the idea of it being a little bit more dimensional, but there we go. Now I'm just going to dry that off. That's done. These papers, we're just going to dry. Doesn't take long. I'll just dry this one. This paper is so thin, it dries really, really fast. And then, let me just get a little bit of that water. And then if you want to ink the edges, let's take our tiny tools again. I've got one that I use for frayed burlap a lot. Pick up some ink. And then I just take this and literally just lightly hit the edges of this because I don't want this to be super grungy. I want it to look like, you know, a dirty old notebook. So I don't do like my typical on the edge. So it just adds a little bit of color. And then you can roll up the corners, do whatever. And then stamping on it, super simple. I saw refrigerator magnets. That's hilarious. Okay, so for this one, let's see. Let's do Happy Easter again. Why not? It's so fun. Okay, Easter time. That's what it says. Take a little block, stick that on. Archival ink, any kind of permanent ink, I would suggest. You can stamp with regular distress ink, but I think on this thin paper, I prefer something permanent. So a little black distress archival is going to work. You can stamp straight on, but it's not going to line up with the lines. And I know for any of it that knows me, like I'm not into the wonky, but for whatever reason, this resonates with me. I'm okay with it. So I just preferred like being a little wonky because I felt that it just looked like somebody took a piece of notebook paper. Because I mean, I remember in school, like you didn't stay in the lines. I didn't. You just wrote wherever you wanted to be. All right, I talked too much. Ink. Take the stamp, go a little wonky, press, hold it for just a second, lift. There's our Easter time. Done. Clean off the stamp, just a little cloth, clean enough. Put it back. Then for our little ears, we're going to take the little bunny ears from Mini Crazy Things. Same thing. And see, it doesn't matter how it goes on the block because you're just stamping it. Like I love watching people where they like put it on the block. If it's a word, that's one thing, but this, you can see through it. So now I'm just going to kind of put that where, let's see, where do I want it to be? Okay, I want it to be there. Stamp, lift. There's our little sketched ears. Hilarious. Funny because this stamp looks like doodles. Christina Werner drew these. I just love them. They're so, she got it. I love that little, it's something about the little sketchy things that I think is so fun. Okay, so for coloring, you can color with whatever you want, but again, I kind of went old school. So to me, it was all about colored pencils because you just had pencils. So you just take a pencil and no watercolor, no nothing. You can even kind of scribble outside the lines and just added a little color. And that's it. And then, you know, I like having a second piece of paper under there. I don't know why, it's just me. It has nothing on it, but I just like having them, and I have it a little offset because I think that makes it just like a messy clipboard. And I'm just going to slide that in. Yeah, there you go.
Oh.
And again, this could go on the front of a card. That's the whole idea of it. But the folded paper, all of that, just have fun with it. But if this is not your jam, you don't have to stain them. The paper could be pristine. You could use decorative scissors. You could do whatever you want. But I felt the idea of just making this, because obviously if you're going to purchase stamp sets, it's really cool to know that you can use this year round. Where if you like the idea of the clipboard, because some people like me, I'm clipboard obsessed. I just love it. And I love the fact that I could sit down and have a bunch of these ready to go. And when I need a quick card, like honestly, put that and put it on any size card front and put a little gift card with it. It's hilarious. It's very cute. And you could add glitter. You could do whatever you wanted to do with these clipboards, but I just found that to be really funny. But yeah, if you're looking for this little one, because if it wasn't for the index, I didn't even know I made a little one. I had hoped I did. Yeah, this is Mini Muse 063. You never know. That's the best. Good fun. So, love all of the ideas. So much good fun to have, right, Mario?
So much.
Are we good?
Flip over that die set. I saw a couple of people asking which die set it was.
This one? Yeah. So this is Vault Noteworthy. It's 666873 if you're looking for the numbers. But that's what it is. Vault Noteworthy.
Thanks.
You're welcome. It was a good one. Absolutely love it. And I have all my stuff on my little magnet sheet so I can see it. I have that. Put it all back with my little sheet. And here it is. Yeah. Cute fun though. I just wanted to, it's always great. And that's why I think I just love to do these lives, because there are certain things where, of course, it makes sense about Easter or any holiday, about the stuff that's actually seasonally done. But then I also like the idea of looking at maybe what we have or what people are using, like for example, a clipboard, and saying, okay, can that have a seasonal spin? I don't know. It doesn't always work, but I love the fact that in this case, it did. It had just some good fun. I'm going to bring in some stuff just because I like to have stuff in the closing shot. Some eggs. We've got our, let's bring some wooden eggs. I do love those. Look at those colors. They're beautiful. And of course, bam, disco eggs. I know for those that are kind of joining late, they're going to be like, what did I come into? Some sort of crazy little party? Yes. Fun little dishes of eggs if you're into doing tiny eggs, because remember, this is our last year for them. And of course, if you're into the little baskets, look at these great, colorful, fun Easter baskets. And of course, our rabbits, whether you're doing foundry wax or wood or faux chocolate, or my new favorite this year, the unwrapped foil bunny. Hilarious. So there you go, some Easter and spring inspiration